Today I have a really special guest because not only does he bring some unique, talents and perspective, but this guy has had a formidable career that is for me is it's hard to relate to, and I think for a lot of people too, because Scott Mulvaney was a hotshot firefighter. I mean, this guy would hike into some of the remotest parts of our country to fight firefighters out there for days or maybe even weeks at a time. We'll find out, relying on his own resiliency, his ability to troubleshoot problems, think on his feet, and analyze quickly. And he's taken that and transitioned into a career in the private sector, helping people with their businesses, personal development, and growth, taking those lessons, his energy, his knowledge to help people take their lives and their businesses to the next level, all based on the foundation of what he learned as a hotshot firefighter, that foundation of duty, respect, and integrity. So, Scott, I'm excited to talk with you. I met you, I think it was last week, a few weeks ago.
Yep.
We had a great conversation then, and I just couldn't wait to get you on my podcast and share the world share you with the world.
Well, it's great to reconnect so soon. So yes, you'll be airing soon on my show. So
So first of all, not many people become hotshot firefighters.
no.
It's pretty fucking crazy to go and want to do something like that, to be frank. What
That
on
word was
earth
thrown around a
possessed
lot
you?
when I did it. So yeah, we did a lot of fucking crazy shit. Yeah, on our tax payer dollars, by the way. So yeah, it was
So tell me about that. What got you? I mean, what possessed you to do that, and what was that like?
a girl.
A girl? What?
I've actually been invited on a few romantic podcasts over the years once they find that out. But yeah, a girl from the West, because I'm a guy born in Jersey and grew up in Eastern Pennsylvania. Farm kid, chased corporate dreams, wasn't happy with life. Paid my way to go through school on nights, weekends, thinking that was going to change it. And then I met this girl one summer who was visiting from Nevada. And she's like, I was like, oh, so what are you going back to do? She's like, oh, I'm going to go be a hotshot. I'm like, what the heck's a hotshot? And that unfolded, obviously, a summer of romance. And then she moved back to go as a female, wildland firefighter, serving as an elite, hotshot level wildland firefighter. And I was like, why are you doing this? She's like, well, you can make some good money in a summer. And then she's like, I want to go heal people. So she was actually using this to fund her schooling to go to Las Vegas for upper echelon level of like massage therapy, medical therapy type massage work. And then she started her own practice after that.
Wow.
Years later. So yeah, that basically opened me up to, I never even heard of what a hotshot was. I knew about
Yeah.
wildland firefighting a little bit because you see on the news, but I didn't know what hot shots were versus smoke
Yeah, but you
jumpers. And
didn't do
yeah.
that so you could chase her back into the backcountry, did you? I mean,
I
that
mean,
wasn't part of the plan, was it?
I mean, it would have been kind of cool because she was super cool. But I mean, a typical West Coast girl. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm generalizing, but her name was Shasta. She was named after Mount
Mount
Shasta in
Shasta. Yeah,
California,
yeah.
and her sister was Denali. I'm not kidding
Oh,
you.
she was
Her
born for
younger
that one.
sister.
Yeah.
I was like, were your parents like hippies or something? And she goes, eh, a little bit. Yeah, we love the mountains. I was like, okay, name your daughters after mountains. So,
So this elite firefighting career, you said it was elite, which it absolutely is.
I didn't realize it until I did it.
Yeah, so there are different levels though, right? I mean, you explained to me, tell the people about that because I think that sets a good, kind of sets the table for a lot of our discussion that we're going to have.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's no downplay of anybody choosing to go fight fire, whether it be structural, right, what we normally see in cities, versus, obviously engine based. If you see engines on the side of the road trying to put either wildland or urban fire out, but then obviously the deeper wildlands, it takes more advanced level training, high levels of fitness. They literally, when I was showed up as a rookie, I had no firefighting background. So I was like, oh, I'm going to show them that I'm committed. So I went to a fire academy on Long Island, New York, to take some courses to show these people that, hey, I'm already in my 30s. And they were calling me the old guy because they're usually bringing people in like the military style where you're fresh out of high school, maybe former athlete, maybe you're looking to do this in the summers to help pay for college, whatever. So the average guy on my crew was 18 to 22. I think I had
Oh,
117. Yeah, it was
yeah.
crazy. So then you find out, oh, yeah, the next 2 weeks of you show up, it's 2 a day workouts for 2 weeks straight, no days off, hiking up to 6 to 7,000 feet. And we were one of the rare remote bases remaining. Most hotshot crews, actually nowadays, my old crew is no longer remote. They moved to Mesa, Arizona, because the hiring has gotten so hard. And that lifestyle, we were living in, we called them barracks, but picture like really big double wides. And because we had to be on base remote in the Tonto National Forest. So it was just lots of mountains and desert and sweat, and they beat the crap out of you for the first couple of weeks to see if you'd physically be able to handle what's coming your way.
What is the weight of the packs that you guys would carry in there?
Standard wildland firefighting PT test is a 45-pound pack for testing. And then you have to, here's a good example, right? So to get your red card qualification, meaning you are physically approved to be deployed onto a fire. Every year, every wildland firefighter, doesn't matter if you're hotshot, you're type 2, hell attack, air attack, whatever. If you're a wildland firefighter, you do a 45-pound pack test covering 3 miles, and you must complete that in under 45 minutes, and you're not allowed to run. You could do a speed hike, but you have to have 1 foot on the ground at all points in time. So some crews will test with weight vests. Some guys will do it with pack testing. I didn't have a hang scale years ago. So here in Pennsylvania, I just went and bought like a bigger mountaineering pack. I went to REI, is a popular big outdoorsy store. And I'm like, hey, I need to do like a lot of weight. And I was like, make sure it can handle at least 50 pounds. And I still have that pack to this day. And I just loaded it with sandbags and then just started hiking along the river on a multi-use trail system we have here. And then I showed up to do the test at the Fire Academy on Long Island, and they put it on this hang scale. Like, oh, you could take some weight out. Apparently, I was training with 60 pounds, and I just didn't know. So,
Wow.
and I finished top of the class. I beat everybody on the PT test at the academy, even a guy who was a former Marine. And I was like, dude, how did I just do that? And he goes, well, I did have a season off. I'm like, dude, you're a Marine. It's like, but I was very motivated. And I'm a crazy adrenaline junkie kind of guy. And I just, when my brain dials in, I dial in. So, yeah.
So when you get out there, you go through the training. There are different types of wildland firefighters. You mentioned, you would hike in. Then there are ones that drop in, parachute in.
Yep. Smoke jumpers. Yep.
Smoke jumpers is called. Okay. When you would hike in, how long would you be prepared to stay in the backcountry and do whatever it is you had to do?
It was rare. They try not to. Actually, it's funny. There's a term, I still remember. It's called spike camp, or they're spiking out. So I'll give an example for that exact point of view. So smoke jumpers are even more rare. They're also type 1, like hotshots are. Last time I checked in this country, we only had 105 hotshot crews. Maybe they've improved that. But when I served, I think there's only about 105. The hotshot crew is 20 personnel, men, women, whatever. But so do the math. You have barely over 2,000 hotshots. Smoke jumpers are even less. But yeah, smoke jumpers are even harder. Their PT tests are 90-pound packs, I believe, last time I checked, because once they skydive in and they're fire resistant suit, they have to take that suit off. They have to pack the chute and the suit into the secondary pack, and then they still have their wildland firefighting tools that they skydived in with. So then
Wow.
they're usually deployed first in the extremely remote, where, hey, if I can lock this down and get a perimeter around it and we could just monitor it, they don't even need any other personnel to come in. They're very specialized. Or they're being sent in ahead of hotshots to get an assessment, gauge how bad it is. Is it getting, is the terrain too dangerous? Can you get dozers in there? Or is it truly wildland certified area where you can't bring in power tools, you can't bring in chainsaws, stuff like that. And then hotshots, they're usually ordered up for those more aggressive terrain, tons of hiking. And that's when they'll deploy or assign hotshots from all over the West, depending on where the fire is at, and they'll be brought in to hike in. And the average lifestyle is you'll hike in, you'll work your 16-hour shift. You hike out and you're camping, or they'll be maybe setting up a fire camp nearby in some farmer's field or a ranch or something like that. They have wide open clearing. And then, they'll try and chow you up. And then hotshots, we leave. We don't like to stay at fire camp because it was too noisy. You would hear the generators, and like they set up like those temporary lights and stuff like that. it's like a true like military style command center, and we want maximum sleep because we're doing 16 hours a day. And if you're assigned on a live fire assignment, you're allowed to do 14 days straight. Years ago, it was 21. And then they started observing too much health impacts, more injuries, obviously psychological, physical, et cetera. So they changed it years ago from 21 to 14 live fire days. But let's say we nip a fire in the bud and you were done in a week. Well, then you haven't timed out yet. So that's only 7 of your 14 live. So maybe they'll ship you on to another park or staging area or a different state, and they'll have you standing by for the next start, the next, fire. Maybe you'll do a little mitigation work or maintenance work for that local community or something like that, just basically waiting for the fire to rip off. The sad part is, as Hotshots, you were like, the only way you got properly paid is if a fire starts. We would unfortunately look forward to fire.
So you got paid differently if it was
Oh yeah, your
downtime,
base
just
pay is
doing
nothing.
maintenance work? Oh, it's
Yeah,
based on.
this is something that's been chased for years. I heard good things in the past year. It's finally back in front of Congress again, but yeah, your base pay is garbage. What you really need is that live fire assignment. When you're officially tagged on to a fire, now you are getting hazard pay, which is basically like double time per hour. And you're hoping that it's on a holiday because then you get holiday pay. The typical governmental thing because most hotshots, well, last time I checked, all hotshots are federal. You're either under the U.S. Forest Service or you're under the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, and those all roll up under the Department of Interior. So, in
Interesting. And how,
California, California is like an entire federal wildland firefighting force by themselves. They call it Cal Fire. It's California invests a lot in their wildland firefighting.
and how long did you do that for?
I just did it for 2 years.
That's a
I
lot,
was
though.
out. It was a lot. I promised the superintendent he was coming in to restore the hotshot status of the crew. They had the prior soup was leaving. There was some drama there. He was rebuilding the crew. And when I interviewed with him in Colorado at another academy that I paid to go to show my commitment that I really wanted to be on a hotshot crew, I said, "What if I fall in love with this and I want to do this the rest of my life?" No offense on any other level of wildland firefighting, but I'm like, I want to be a hotshot. Let's go. And so when I interviewed him over lunch in I think it was Greeley, Colorado, at a community college doing a fire ignitions. He was teaching fire ignitions. He goes, "Scott," he goes, "I need you for 2 years." He goes, I need to set up a baseline of trustworthy people. He's like, "You're already considered older for me." I was like, "Dude, I just ran the Marine Corps Marathon in DC before coming here, man." And he goes, "I get it." He's like, "I got the fitness thing. I just make sure that," he's like, "You also came out of the corporate world." He goes, you have a degree in psychology and marketing. You are not my normal,
Yeah,
hiring
you're an outlier.
process. Yeah. He goes, "I need you." He's like, "Listen," he's like, "I need asses and elbows." I put that in my book. He goes, "What?" I was like, "What? We need asses." He goes, "Dude, you used to manage people in the corporate world. You are about to be managed. I got to understand that you're ready to follow whatever we tell you. And we can't have people stepping out of line. That's when you're risking lives and you're taking risks." He's like, "You got to be ready to get yelled at." And basically, he's literally, you're bent over just digging a hand line. So that's what he means by asses and elbows, is like
Yep.
you're bent over half your shift digging in the dirt.
So why did you leave corporate America then? I mean, you obviously had you have a degree, you have
Yeah.
expertise, in a specialty. Then you are in corporate America.
Oh yeah, I
You
was
said
managing call
managing.
centers. I spent over a decade in telecom.
So
Then
why
I went
why
IT.
why
Yeah,
leave that? You've had such an interesting
it's a life
journey and
suck.
pathway, but why leave? And besides the girl, there had to
Yeah,
be something else.
I wasn't happy. And it was funny timing. After meeting that girl, she moved west. I started just in my free time. I had a few courses. I decided to go back to school on nights and weekends as an adult student, taking this accelerated program for, because I was possibly going to go master's, if not even doctoral route, because I ended up falling in love with psychology. I don't need to go to college to learn business. I've learned that many years later. But I just wasn't happy with the corporate ladder. I thought that was my ticket to success because I grew up, pretty low income. I was a farm kid, and I was chasing money and realized that was not happiness. And having the job title, all of a sudden, it just didn't matter to me. And then I said, well, what if that is my future? But right now, I was like, I'm about to finish that last course, finish a double degree. I'm not happy with my gig. I have nothing tying me down, no family, no kids. I could just sell everything tomorrow, fit my life in a car and go. And I got excited, like my heart fluttered, and I just listened to it. And I said, "That's it." So I went to the VP I was working for at the time, and I was like, "Hey, I need you to fire me." And she's like, "What?" She's like, "You're." At that time, I was actually influencing a sales side of the company. She's like, "You're in the top three sales drivers of the company right now. What you're doing." Um, why? And I was like, yeah, I need to go be a firefighter.
Her jaw probably hit the floor.
She was like,
What?
she's like, I don't know what you mean. I was like, I need you to fire me because that way, I get unemployment. It was the only time I used unemployment intentionally. And I said, I just needed to cover me just in case until I get set up in Arizona and start serving as a hotshot. And I told her, I was like, I already have the job offer. I'm going whether you do it or not. So, and I had some savings, but I
Yeah.
was like, okay.
So
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 yeah,
let me ask you how I'm a big believer that nothing, even though our paths may seem circuitous, or we may people think they're taking detours in their life, that nothing is lost. That eventually it all comes together in some weird way. So how is all of these different experiences, different things that you've learned, situations you've been in, what are you doing now? How has it all come together to uniquely position you and your perspective and your talents to be doing what you're doing, and tell people what you're doing now with all of that? But I really
yeah,
want people to understand how this is all in this way that I'm sure you never even anticipated, has now
definitely
come
didn't.
together for you.
It's there's so many quotes. I became a geek about quotes, by the way, while I was firefighting. I was always because you're sometimes we call our crew carriers were called buggies. You're in this big hot metal box that holds 8 dudes in captain's chairs in the back. And I say hot because these were brand new $250,000 trucks. Each one was $250,000, outfitted to be fully independent. Hotshot crews, like I said, they don't have to resupply for a few days. We have MREs just like the military if we don't have food and chow, stuff like that. And it's a hot box if your air conditioning doesn't work on a brand new $250,000 federally funded vehicle. Totally happened. And so you think a lot. That back then I wasn't a big podcaster. All of a sudden I got into podcasting and audiobooks, and I learned that even though I just finished a ton of education, that I still loved education. So then I just started geeking out and finding entrepreneurs and speakers. And then I realized that thanks to the psychology, I was a secret geek about personal and professional growth. And a great quote is, sometimes you got to trust the process. And my process was kind of muddy at the time. I was like, I just uprooted my entire life. I have executive level people that I was friends with back here, including the one guy who had the startup IT company that's been sold 3 times after I left. And I probably could have made a ton of money. And he goes, dude, I can't believe you're leaving. I was like, life is short. What if this is what I'm meant to do, what I'm meant to be? And so, but from that position and from that role, I never even planned on writing a book. So, like you're an author. I mean, I wrote So You Want to Be a Hotshot. The chapters in the book, most of them came out of the fire book, the guideline, our mission, our principles. You mentioned duty, respect, and integrity. That's part of the bio of that's literally tattooed on my ribs. So a lot of that just came through growth and realizing, trusting that process and saying, okay, well, firefighting didn't stick with me forever. I realized, wait a minute, I am older. I would have had to commit to a full-time position within a year and a half if I was offered one, or else I wouldn't qualify for a federal pension. I think it cuts off at like 36, what last time I checked. So I don't like that pressure of deciding my path. I committed my 2 years. I earned my belt buckle. That's what when you commit to a crew for 2 to 3 years. Most crews have a 2 year or a 3 year term to earn the crew's logo belt buckle. It's a handmade piece of metal, and I still wear it to this day. And I'm honored to have served. And I realized, okay, well, let me come back. Let me move to Colorado. I fell in love with Colorado after a fire that I fought there outside of Boulder, moved to Golden, and the job market sucked. I literally have a spreadsheet to this day. I applied to over 200 jobs.
Wow.
I'm a
If not,
degreed
if
person.
nothing else, you're tenacious.
I was like, I have a double degree, former corporate guy, and just risked his life for 2 years as a wildland firefighter. And I could not lock a job down. This is 2012, I think at the
I
time,
think the universe
2012.
was sending you a message.
Yeah. And then a friend of mine, she's like, what, from back here and on the East Coast, she goes, hey, I was best friends with her husband at the time. And she's like, hey, I'm growing my agency. She's like, I need your expertise to grow it. She's trying to grow this sales management company, which I still work with to this day contractually. But back then, she's like, hey, I want to hire you. Come back from Colorado.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be hard, but she's like, I need your help and I want to grow this company. And she was in startup mode. So, and I've already worked for startups. So I was like, all right, helping a friend. So it brought me back East. And then I realized I still wasn't happy working for somebody else. And again, trust the process, which is funny because now fast forward all these years later, she's my number one client. We do six figures together on my contract. Well, that I take away from it. I make her a lot more money than that. And it works great. So, but I'm my own boss. I make my hours. I manage the contract. It's 100% 1099, that world. I then launched a marketing company on the side to just keep exercising the marketing side of me. Like I'm a sales geek, a marketing geek, but I also realized I never want to manage people again. I train her team. I grow her people. I manage training and education for other companies, but I don't officially manage them. I was done with
Yeah.
that. I put that time in. So it's going back over time and saying, okay, what did you enjoy? What did you not? And how do you carry forward the pieces of the puzzle that you've enjoyed? And how do you start putting them together? And back to my point, trust the process. And it took a while to trust the process. So, and who knows? I don't know. It's going to keep changing, but I'm happy where I am today.
Yeah. And what do you say to people who are hearing this and maybe in a similar situation you were years ago where they're in a job or a career where they don't like it. They're miserable or just unfulfilled and they're thinking about making a change, but they're gripped by the fear or the prospect of uncertainty or not having financial stability or security anymore is keeping them from doing that. Although from making the change, even though they're not happy where they're at now. What do you say to them?
Well, that aligns whether it be career, whether it be business, or even our health. Like I'm a huge health geek. Thanks to firefighting, always being an athlete, I'm a huge advocate for health. That's what I podcast about. That's why I had you on, and that's why I talk about health, business, and lifestyle on the Live the Fuel podcast. That branding that was created after fire, moving through Colorado and working my way back east, and I needed an outlet for that personal professional growth that I became obsessed with. So I just started posting motivational content years ago. That's all I care. I just needed a Facebook page to do that with. I wasn't even into Instagram or any of that stuff back in the day. And so for me in the beginning, it was just, you know what, start putting in the reps. We use that like going to the gym, right? You got to put in the reps. Well, I've used that a lot over the years and it could apply in slowly fixing your kitchen, slowly building that side hustle that what if it becomes the future business that you'll be able to replace the prior income with of the jobby job and become entrepreneurial. And again, not everybody's meant to become an entrepreneur. Maybe you just need to change careers and change companies or industries or markets or whatever. So for me, I said this in the book, don't just chop everything and go and become a firefighter. You don't need to do that. But to become a hotshot in your life, you don't need to be a firefighter. I realized that it was a matter of just being willing to take risks, and the risks need to be sometimes calculated risks. You don't need to be just blowing your life up. That all that does is add more stress. And it's like, well, I blow my life up. That's stressful. Like I did a lot of stress. I took one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. I dropped everything, my entire life, gave everything away, sold everything, and then put everything in a 1999 Subaru Outback that I bought $3,000 cash because I wanted no debt, no bills, and I wanted to be free. Like I went hardcore vagabond and I had no experience with that. So don't do that.
Yeah.
But be more calculated, be willing to get outside your comfort zone. That job was straight outside of comfort zone day in, day out. I mean, yes, thanks to great leadership and great training and drilling. When we weren't on fires, we were drilling. We were going through, there was coursework, certifications. I mean, I had to earn my FFT1, which is tons of coursework over 2 years. And it's a balance of education and risk taking and don't be afraid
for
to
what
take those
somebody's
risks.
comfortable with within their comfort zone. That's interesting hearing you talk because I'm having flashbacks to when I was in my 20s and I graduated from college and couldn't find a job and wanted
Yep.
to learn Spanish and had the phone number of somebody in Chile who said they'd let me. I didn't even know them personally. They were just a friend of a friend. Let me sleep on their floor. This is right after the
Oh, that
dictatorship.
sounds amazing.
Pinochet got it left, and they were sort of getting back into being a democratic country, and it was safe and relatively safe. And so I ended up buying a one-way ticket,
I
and
would have done that.
it was amazing. And so I went, slept on this guy's floor for a few weeks till I found a place to live, learned Spanish, got a job as a journalist, helped some guys in the South start an ecological tourism company, was translating and rafting and making sandwiches and driving the van. And it was amazing. But
So
I,
you
but
took a risk.
I took a risk. And
Yeah.
similarly, I was in corporate America. I was a project manager at different software companies in Seattle and was
Did
totally
you have your
miserable.
black belt? I almost went that route too. I was a geek about
No, I
project
didn't. I
management.
didn't do
So
that. Did not do that. But I was miserable in that position, profession, and so I had no wife, no kids, no mortgage at the time, and so I left that and went back to medical school and became a student and got into all of that debt and had that lifestyle again in my 30s.
yeah.
And those are you and I seem like we're a bit of extremists in that sense, or at least were. I was when I was younger. Now I'm a little more measured. But what I like about your approach is it doesn't have to be all or nothing, because
No.
people, it sounds like in how you working with people, and you probably take this into the companies that you consult with too, is identifying strengths, identifying passions, identifying opportunities, and whittling away at reaching those goals without throwing necessarily everything at it at once. It's
No.
must mirror that approach.
One thankful thing from firefighting, which I already aligned with because I already thought this way, but it just came to fruition from that experience was in my consulting I do now is I lead with two things: strategy and execution. That if you had to just cut all the BS out of it, that's it. I was like, we talk strategy before we even execute. Because if just like a wildland firefighting, you do not hike into a fire unless you've already discussed two routes you're taking. There is at least two safety zones established or that can be established because if one gets cut off, you have another way out. This is firefighting 101 and wildland firefighting. You have to have two courses of action always available at all points in time because Mother Nature can be a very angry bitch. Just to shorten that up.
Yeah,
So,
and kill you when you're
yeah,
back there. I mean, this is really
exactly.
life or
Yeah.
death that what you were
Yeah.
dealing with.
We've lost numerous crews over the history of wildland firefighting. One
Wow.
of which I knew. I mean, they made a movie about them, the Granite Mountain Hotshots. They all got burned over in 2013, protecting their own local town. Like they were outside of Prescott, Arizona, so they were literally 20 minutes from their home barracks where
Oh,
they
sad.
unfortunately lost their lives. And that movie, by the way, is called Only the Brave. So if you want to see if you're a tough guy or girl and you want to cry, I've cried watching it because it's my wife didn't believe me. I was like, if we go watch that, you're gonna see the emotional side of me because that could have been me. And that's again, back to you just saying, do you need to go do this? No. For me, a switch flipped, and when a switch flips for me, man, I'm all in and I'm getting after it. So, but yes, you don't have to go do these
So
things
how do you
to
carry
feel
that into the people you work with, whether it's individuals or companies?
well, I put in a lot of reps. So, like I said, I have no problem working in the corporate world. I realized that sales is not evil. I was afraid of sales. Everybody told me for years, dude, Scott, you're like
And it
the
gets
gift
such a
of
bad
gab.
rap. I think, the stereotype of sales and
Yeah,
salespeople
the
are,
the cheesy used car salesman. That's all
yes.
I thought of when I was younger, and
So
I'm
what do you
like, oh
think of
my
now?
god,
How do you think about it now?
it's a big part of what I do and who I influence and who I train. I work with a lot of sales professionals out there across the Northeast U.S., physically in person, working with sales teams all the time. And in the end, you're just trying to address somebody's problem with a solution if you had to really dumb it down. So if you remove sales from the process, it's really a relationship building experience. And that's one thing I love about psychology, by the way, is that I don't remember anything I learned about marketing in school. I still am a geek about mindset work, personal and professional development, as I said earlier, but just being able to connect with your fellow man or woman is one of the most simplistic things that could benefit anybody in life. And this could be aligned with talking better with your doctor, going through your health workups, right? Working in a romantic situation, like communication. That's a basic fundamental that so many of us overlook. And you could apply that personally or professionally. But I mean, in fire, communication was everything. You have to trust the person next to you because you're risking your lives together. You got to trust the person on the other end of that two-way radio. You have to trust the upper command that's talking to you from a remote fire camp where they can't even get burned over, telling you what to do on the side of a mountain that's 2 miles away, right? Well, that all that transcends into sales, and working with companies and working with teams is simplify it. Get back to the basics and really
Duty,
just try and get to know the people
respect,
you're talking to.
integrity.
Exactly.
Back to the basic. I mean, as you're talking, that's those words are
Yeah.
coming into my head again that we started the podcast with, and that's tattooed on your ribs: duty,
Yeah.
respect, integrity.
If we walk into a situation, or in general, like right now, if we come in a state of know-it-allness, and I know it's not a proper term, but I think I know everything and I got this, or you walk in saying, I'm going to close this deal. There's confidence, and then there's just straight up being obnoxious. Okay. Yes, if you know your shtick, sales wise, if you know your product or your service and you know you're going to be able to help them, great. But that should not be the topic of the conversation. It's where are you at in that relationship? Some of the biggest deals that I've negotiated in the past 5 years alone took me 3 to 5 years, if not 7 on some of the big ones, to just slowly grow and help them little by little until we start accomplishing the bigger things, because that's where the trust gets built. And so many of us nowadays, thanks to technology, we want everything now and tomorrow. And maybe that makes me sound a little more old school, but I think the old school is the new school.
But also, if people don't have a plan or a perspective, if they don't have the larger perspective and see the end game and the way that's going to provide for the healthy interaction, healthy relationship, they're gonna trip themselves up and create problems. And you said it before, strategy and tactics. So kind of boiling some of this down from all of your many years of psychology and sales work and consulting and working in the telephone industry, working as a hotshot, duty, respect, integrity, strategy, and tactics. Am I hitting it? I mean, I'm really trying to
and then execution comes in the end. If you have the right building blocks in place that you just hit on, the execution part becomes very, very simple and very, very easy.
And that's translated. It gets translated not only into business, but people can use that formula for any goal in their life, their health, relationships,
especially
any
health.
of that. Yeah.
Because in my whole life, up until serving as a firefighter, I always had side jobs. I was a spinning instructor. I was a USSA ski race coach. I used to coach people in CrossFit after learning what CrossFit even was when I was a firefighter. They slapped that all over us. Functional fitness. I always had that to balance me. Even in my corporate life, I always did stuff on the side. I always had multiple hats. And then once I became a firefighter, I was forced to wear one hat. Well, that didn't stop me from learning, audio. I to this day, I call it windshield university. Like if you commute a lot or you're in your car a lot, I don't listen to music unless my wife is in the car. I'm listening to audiobooks and podcasts to this day religiously, because you could be crushing out multiple degrees in your car. And I feel like there's no excuse nowadays to not grow yourself. We have the technology that we never had before. So I'm a big proponent of that. That's part of those strategic building blocks, right? So especially if I'm getting held up on a possible upcoming thing, I'm going to go track down that influencer or that business coach or that executive level person. Do they have a book? Do they have an audiobook? Do they have a podcast? Or if they have none of that, but they've been on other people's podcasts, or there's conferences, right? Tracking down the right conferences. I pay a lot of money to go to different conferences a couple times a year that might have nothing to do with my industry. And my wife, a couple of years ago, I went to Texas for KetoCon. I think they rebranded it since then, but I was a geek about ketogenic health and I wanted to go immerse myself in it. So I worked for myself. So I left Thursday, came back on a Monday, and I geeked out and got to meet half the people I met there. I already had on my podcast that I geeked out with. So I got to meet them in person, hang out. Has nothing to do with my quote, money generating activities. It had to do with my personal goals and how I can, help others along that journey as well. Because if you want to drop 100 pounds, you ain't going to do that tomorrow. There has to be a healthy transition, a process, and patience, but also dedication and focus. There's that strategy before execution.
Consistency of effort. Tell me about the name Live the Fuel.
Live
I
the
think I have an
fuel. Yeah.
idea based on your background where that comes from, but
So
I want to know.
one of my favorite quotes was
Yeah.
from Ernest Hemingway when I left to be a firefighter, and it was a great classic quote. Is basically live life to the fullest, and that's what I say. You know what? If I had to live life to the fullest, what do I want to do next? I'd already finished nights and weekends in schooling. I hated my corporate gig. I'm like, I am gonna go fight fire. So after that, my marketing brand, brain kicked in, and I'm like, I want my own quote. I mean, I'm a big geek on quotes. How do I create my own quote? And I was like, what if I rebranded that? And I literally, in my old crappy apartment, took a bunch of post-it notes and wrote down every key word that either motivated me or inspired me or I'd used in the past year. I had a whole wall of post-it notes and keywords, and that I eventually built Live the Fired Up Epic Life, which is what Live the Fuel stands for. Fuel is fired up
Oh,
epic life.
oh, that was totally different than what I thought, which I
I know.
love.
I think,
This is great, even better.
yeah. So, and then I led with both terms for a while, and then I just kind of shortened it. And it's like, dude, and then me being a podcasting geek, realizing that everybody tells me I have the gift of gab. I went to a bunch of podcasting conferences over the years. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to launch a show. And that was back in 2016. So we should hit 500 shows this year. I had to slow it down a little bit when I
Congratulations. That's
decided to
amazing.
write a book. Cause like, by the way, that's fun, you know,
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll just become an author. Yeah, that's easy. So,
But
yeah.
again, it's like anything, bite size, consistency, learning. That's people get really overwhelmed, I think, of not knowing where to start. And one of the best things is to just start.
And again, back to trusting the process. Like I got all excited about writing this book. And then I was like, you know what? Let me reach out to my people. Thanks to podcasting, I
Yeah.
had connections, I had editors, I had all the I'm like, so I ended up having everybody that I needed that I just took for granted. And then started working on the book in my free time during my business travels. I didn't even write the book. I because I traveled so much, I just would activate the Otter app on my iPhone and just speak a chapter, transcribe it,
Amazing.
and then I would just send the files to my editor, and we generated a book out of it. So I made it work with my lifestyle, and I realized sitting down and writing a chapter is not me.
Yeah.
I was like, now talking, let's go.
Fantastic. So there's a way to do it no matter what the personality. You just got to, again,
Yeah,
find your
yeah.
strengths, find what you can
Yeah.
consistently
And
do.
then listen to people near you because I had people
Yeah.
say, well, Scott, I thought you're happy making money over here. You know that most authors don't make money, right? And I said, well, I don't care if I make money. They said, oh, but don't you care about charity work? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, And one buddy goes, well, you ever think about just donating the proceeds to a charity? And I'm like, ooh, I like that idea. And then right before getting the book ready for launch, I started my own charity because I needed something else to do. And then I put that on the back of the book to ensure that, Fuel Foundations, anybody who buys the book knows like 100%, I don't make a dollar off of this. It costs me money. Everything goes into a 501c3. So this was a new chapter of my awakening. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I can control where the money's going and make sure that it's benefiting others. And I was giving to other charities initially. And then this past year, actually, right before I started working, had you on the show, I realized what was the most important foundation under wildland firefighters is their boots, and they're really expensive. And so now I buy boots for wildland firefighters with my charity from the proceeds of the book and 5% of my own income that I put into the charity just to get back.
Tell people about that. You and I talked about that when you had me on your podcast about, I was shocked about the price of those boots. How,
Oh
they're
yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
specialized.
Solid. Well, hold on, I'll move aside. Those boots back there on the chair, those are my original wildland firefighter boots. So those were back in the day about $400 to $500. The ones I'm buying today, well, if that's exact model or a competing company that most people are happy with, they're retail at least $600. So if you're a kid coming out of high school and you want to be a wildland firefighter or even a hotshot level or a smoke jumper level, you got to have a quality pair of solid leather rebuildable boots because we hiked so much my first year, half the tread was ground off the bottom of the boot. So in your off season, you can send them back and they'll replace the soles. And then if your uppers are fine, they're fine. But if you start blowing the seams out because you're just working so hard, they can rebuild the boot. So you can, instead of having buy another $400 to $600 pair of boots, you can rebuild it for $150 to $200, right? So I decided that. Luckily, I had the money. I bought the top of the line boot, and that's why I still have them to this day. Now I was like, that's it. If I'm going to buy boots for people continuing to risk their lives and serve, I want to make sure they got the best. And so I'm buying 600. Well, I have a wholesale connection thanks to my charity and everything. But again, I'm helping firefighters that I used to be able to serve alongside of that are choosing to do this to possibly the rest of their lives and get them the proper protection for their feet.
Yeah, and you
Because
even
there's
told
a
me a
lot of
story
guys.
of a firefighter who was sleeping in his car who had to buy new
Yes,
boots.
Arnaldo. Yeah,
Yeah.
Arnaldo. Yeah, I just emailed him the other day because now it's fire season. The past few months, people were getting their boots done, boom, boom, boom. As soon as I set up, usually they got them done in a couple of weeks. And it's been like a month or two. And I'm like, what's going on? I reached out to the boot company. They said, well, we're still communicating. And well, it's fire season. So firefighters could be gone and they're either texting or emailing when they got a free moment. And then they got to wait till they come back and they got to order the boots because I'm paying for them. So that's fine. But it's a process. But yeah, Arnaldo, man, he was so committed. I guess he had just come out of divorce. And his email's like, "Oh my God, I never expected you to pull my name because that's my rookie helmet back there. I put everybody's names. These are more names I'll be putting into the helmet, and I just do a random drawing, and every single month until maybe this goes viral one day, and I get more donations besides what I'm putting in, but or more firefighters need more boots. But the point is that Arnaldo went through a divorce. He was kind of rebuilding his life, decided to become a wildland firefighter, was putting his way through the academy, and he didn't have a proper pair of boots. And he emailed me back and DM'd me on Instagram when I posted the video about me drawing his name. He goes, "Oh my God, I never in a million years thought that you would pull my name." I was like, "Well," and then he tells me the whole story. And I'm like, "Oh my God." I was like, "You're exactly somebody that I want to help. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to help everybody, but dude, I I had like goosebumps. I was so happy to get a story, sadly so tragic, but proof that people that might be at the bottom rung of their life that they think is their bottom rung now, it's not. It's you're just at a lull. It's okay. We're all supposed to go through these lulls in life to teach us our resilience and the ability to come back even stronger. So if my pair of boots that I'm buying him is just one of those little stepping stones to help him rebuild himself to be even more bulletproof and stronger for the future and maybe his future family and his future wife one day, I'm like, bro, I'm just inspired.
I
I
love
love
it.
it. The
I
guy's
love it.
hustling.
How
Yeah.
that's a great transition to how can people learn more about you? How can they find the book? How can they learn about your foundation, your work? How can they contact you if they want to reach out to
Yeah.
you?
But there's a trifecta because I believe in the power of three. So Live the Fuel came first. That's livethefuel.com. That's the podcast show and everywhere on social media. And then I created Fuel Up Marketing, which is the consultancy, sales, and marketing. And then, because everything's got fuel and fire in the logos, by the way. And then there's fuelfoundations.org. That's the charity. And then just for fun, I created hotshotbook.com. It takes you right to the listing on Amazon where the book's at. So it's a faster way to find it. So I bought the URL for that just so people can find the book faster.
Yeah.
But they can find that information on fuelfoundations.org as well. And because the point is, I made it plural because again, who knows what's happening next? Maybe the boot program gets pretty smooth and automated, and I'm meant to start helping in some other form or fashion. And that's the cool part about having your own charity is the world becomes your oyster. If you have enough funding to do so, you could help as many organizations or people as you want, depending on the inspiration that's driving
I
it.
love that. And all those URLs will be in the show notes. So click through. Thank you for talking to me today. It's always, I mean, that's the second conversation we've had, and normally these go about 30 minutes as my interviews. We've obviously gone longer than that, and I didn't
Oh,
even
I,
realize.
I want your regular listeners to look forward to find that on Live the Fuel, man, because I had a blast having you on the show. That'll be airing in the next couple of months here, so
Yeah.
hopefully in the next
Yeah,
month
look for that
actually. But
too. But definitely this show for me is I didn't even, you really have so many gifts. And I'm grateful that you're in the world. I'm grateful that you've decided to take the risks and follow things that light you up and are creating such good work and paying it forward, all of the things that you've created. So thank you, because what I've learned from you and the inspiration I've taken from you in just this little time, I know is a fraction of what the resources that you've created and what other people are going to be able to access by reaching out to you. So it's been a pleasure.
it's been an honor. Thank you.